We are moving into our June series where we're talking about thought terminating cliches. I had mentioned that during our 100 days um, of community, right? And I was like, people were like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, yeah, it needs a whole month to really kind of break down because it's become such a normal part of our lexicon. Right. When I used to do a workshop on this, I would talk about how English is a colonized language, right? 80% of the world should not be speaking the same language. That's just not how it should be, right? Oh, you guys are saying hi to each other. I love that. Let's get it. You're not that in and of itself, right? Is proof, I would say. I mean, if you need some proof, good morning, Melissa. That is proof of colonization in and of itself, right? We all have a native language, native tongue, dialects, etc. But the colonization happened, and language is one of those things that it gets to take from you, right? If you think about the transatlantic slave trade, right? And if you're grabbing a bunch of Africans from different areas and you bring them to a land that they can't even speak to each other because of their dialect, right? If you speak Hutu and somebody speaks Tutsi, we're not talking the same language, and that makes it difficult. In the class, somebody had suggested looking up the Tower of Babel, right? So going back to the historical parts of it, I will try to remember to add that level of the story into it. And it was just an idea of explaining how no matter what we say and do, our colonization begins even in our language, right? So we speak the language of oppression. If you speak English, you speak oppressor. That's really what that comes down to, right? So these phrases, these thought terminating cliches, good morning, Dinah, are such a part of our normal lexicon, right? It is what it is was my favorite one because that is such a wild thing to say to someone, right? If they're fighting against whatever oppression, usually, um, it is what it is. It is what it is. It it irks me so deeply in my soul. It is what it is a wild ass answer to somebody expressing pain, grief, trauma, oppression, active harm against them. It is what it is. Wow. Right. So, in this series, we will be discussing what those look like, how they are attached to those 15 pillars of supremacy culture. Again, the ebook and the infographic is pay what you can. So I suggest highly downloading that so you could start naming them. When we can name systems, it makes it so much easier, right? And it takes away the shame, the blame, the guilt, and it gives you a systems view. It gives you a patterned outlook on it. Like, oh, it's not just me. No, no, friends, it's not. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Lisa says English drags other languages into the alley and steals adjective and phrases. Yes. And I lived in England for like 4 years, and the Crown's English is not even this American English. So I get it's very interesting to me when people correct American English. I'm like, this is the most bastardized version of proper English. Like when people like speak proper English, I'm like, do you speak proper English? Like, do you even know what proper English is? Spellings, just the way they use the language, all of it different. So, anyhow, let's get in to our three talking points, right? Oh, look, I was prepared. Are you excited? I even got here a little bit early. Hey, Barbara, good morning. Hi, Carolyn. Nice to see you. Okay, so today, it is why it is what it is, isn't liberation, right? So, I lead in with these phrases sound harmless, even comforting, but they're not. They're linguistic door slams, cloaked in calm. And in a world where oppressive systems thrive off of silence, these phrases do more than dismiss the harm. They protect the harm, right? Because if you could just, agree to disagree is another one that I just, no. Like, no, we could simply just disagree. I don't need to agree with you. I don't agree with you. That is literally why we're having this moment, this conflict. And remember, I touched on that, right? Healthy conflict is necessary. There is always going to be a rupture and repair cycle in healthy relationships. Are you willing to do the repair work, right? There's going to be a rupture. We're human. We're flawed. We make mistakes. We say the wrong things. We do the wrong things. Are you willing to do the work to repair, to restore? Yes or no? That's what it comes down to. And if all parties aren't, then restoration and repair are always possible, right? So, three talking points. One is, it is what it is a closure statement, not a clarifying one. Okay. Huge difference. Two, cliches like these protect the system, not the person. That's super important. And why I'm like, take a systems view to oppression, and it becomes a little less personal, and you are more aware of when it's coming up, where it's coming up, and how to dismantle it. Three, liberation requires languaging what we long for, right? Like, as in, we need to learn how to speak for what we want. Be intentional with our words. I love the four agreements. Highly, deeply recommend that. Be impeccable with your word. Super important. Do what the hell you said you're going to do. It's commitment. Like, do what you said you were going to do. And then if you don't do what you said you're going to do, allow yourself to be held accountable. Like, that's the rupture. What are you going to do for the repair? This is super simple. So, speaking into what we actually desire, what we want, taking more time, more breath, and leaning in with curiosity. Keep telling you guys, you got to meet this work with curiosity. What could I learn? What can I say differently? How can I show up? And always remain teachable. Okie dokie smoking. So let's get into it. It is what it is a closure statement, not a clarifying one. This cliche stops the conversation instead of starting transformation. It avoids accountability, and when used in spaces of a power imbalance, it can spiritualize inaction or neutralize grief, right? And there are many power imbalances. We're always talking about the intersectionality of liberation, right? And that means recognizing the intersections of oppression. Good morning, Michelle. I was thinking about you today when I was making coffee, and I was like, I should text Michelle. I haven't seen her in a minute. Glad to see you. Um, Shucks, where was I? Oh, there's many forms of a power imbalance, right? Like, a lot of you, I keep saying this, come to this work initially starting your anti-racism journey. And that's a beautiful thing. We love that. We need that. However, I want you to expand that view, right? There's power imbalance in me as a parent. I have this conversation often. It is set up in a hierarchy, as is everything and all of these systems under supremacy culture, right? So if I turn around and I tell my kids, because I said so, and sometimes that is an answer. Don't give me because that's the answer. Because I said so. You could ask me why later, but maybe right now in this moment, you just need to trust me, right? But then that takes the building of the trust. And I have that conversation with my kids. Is sometimes I'm going to say something and I need you to just be actionable and we can discuss it later. I'm always able to be questioned, but sometimes in the moment, just do it. If I say get up and go, this is not the time to start asking me questions because I said so. Go. That's a safety issue. We need to leave this moment, right? Stop doing something. Usually it's going to be safety if I have to shut it down, but that shuts it down. You see how it shut down the curiosity, the questioning, the ability to say no, right? Because they can't say, if I say because I said so and they say no and do something else, some type of punitive measure usually comes behind that. So those things are power imbalances. If you're at work, your supervisor, black and white, racial differences, gender, man, woman, cis, and trans, Christian, non-Christian, all of these things, poor, wealthy, right? It exists within that binary, which is one of those 15 pillars of supremacy culture, that either or thinking. So wherever a power imbalance exists, you're going to have an issue if you're using these terms, right? Because it neutralizes everything. Like, nah, we're not going to do that. And you don't really have the power to push back unless you decide you want to push back and go for it. As an example, I said a parent requests a 504 plan or an accommodation, and it says, "Well, it's just how the system works. It is what it is." I'm sorry, what? No, I hear you, but we have to push back on that, right? I want a different system. I understand that may be how it works. How do we change it, right? Get curious. Why does it work that way? And who is it working for? Because back to that third point, it is protecting a system, not a person. This is not working for people. The way this is set up is not working for actual human beings. It's damn sure working for supremacy culture. It is not working for actual humans. So these responses don't provide care. They provide an escape route from responsibility. So the reframe I offer here is liberation work asks, what made it this way, right? Getting curious. Remember what I said during the 100 Days of Community? If you were not here, you do not remember, let me tell you again. Ask yourself, who's not in the room and what are the barriers? Why are they not in the room? Right. So when you're doing this work, when you're asking yourself these questions, like what made it this way? Right. I live in Atlanta and I'm from New York City. I will tell you that every time I get a chance. I'm from the Bronx. And when I moved here, I think in 2005, so I've been here 20 years. I've been here 20 years. And I think I've been on the public transportation system twice. Thankful for always having a car. I don't even know how people survive around here. This is not a walkable town because that's what it is to me. It's a town. It is not a walkable town. All of that to be said is I look at like the martyr and where the direction goes and where it stops. And I'm like, this is not a comprehensive system, public transportation system at all whatsoever, comparatively to New York and London. Because remember, I lived in the UK and their transportation is wild. It's amazing, right? You can kind of get everywhere and anywhere. Same with New York. So you could tell the environmental racism in the MARTA system here in Georgia. So that's what I mean. Like, what made it this way? Why can I not get into this town with ease? Like, why is that not possible? Oh, okay. Because this is where you house the Negroes and you didn't want them in your neighborhood, in your area. And you can tell that here. So you ask yourself that, like, what are the barriers? Who's not in the room? You're going to find your answer, right? Ask yourself also, who benefits from it staying this way? We already know who benefits in that example, right? And what would it take to shift it? The most important question, right? Does it mean, right? Like we need an email, we need a march, we need to boycott. All of those things are valuable and needed. This is why activism to your capacity is necessary, right? Not everybody could be doing the same thing. Lisa said Gainesville, Florida is the same. Yeah, I'm sure the whole South is. Like, but it was just like wild to me because I'm like, and this is why there's such a huge disconnect to people believing there's not racism in the North and there's so much in the South. And I'm like, it's just different. It's just in your face. It's very obvious, right? And New York City is really like an anomaly because it's home of an immigrant. Really, that's what makes New York City so different. It's not that there's not racism; it's that it's all of it. It's all the isms. We hate everybody equally. So it's all of the things in that space, right? Because it is a hub for immigrants. So you have all of this hustle and bustle, and this like that's that energy of New York and the ability to move around. And so you don't think that racism exists because there's not Confederate flags or like, Plantation Way or Confederate Lee Drive or, transportation that won't get you into white neighborhoods. But it definitely exists. It's just super blatant in the South. Laura says, yes, because in Rhode Island, I took the bus everywhere all the time. Yeah, because, like, again, and then that's also those areas where, like fishermen, it's a blue collar town. These people had to get around this small area to get to work. This is created to literally keep people, Black people specifically, in this area and just able to move around within the areas that we were allowed in. So the reflection prompt for this one is where in your life have you used it is what it is to bypass grief, complexity, or responsibility, either on yourself, because self-talk is super important. I tell you guys that this work has to begin with yourself, right? When have you accepted that? When have you told, well, you know what? It is what it is, and shut your own needs down, right? Because if you are cutting yourself off from your emotions, cutting yourself off from naming your needs, it's so easy to do the same thing to someone else. Right? Because if I'm not noticing, well, you know what? It is what it is. Can't get that done. Why? Are you asking yourself what made it possible that you can't get this done, right? Who benefits if I don't get this done? And what does it take to get a shift? And that's how we get into that community mindset, right? With my backyard. I cannot do this by myself. I am 2 years out from a back surgery and fibromyalgia, and I could not do that. So I reached out to some people, right? My old neighbor has some teenage kids, and I was like, hey, you guys want to make some money? Like, because who doesn't want to make money in the summer? And they were like, yes. And I'm like, I love that. They came over. Another friend of mine helped chop up some wood. I called Atlanta and was like, do a bulk pickup. All of those things have to work in concert with each other, right? Like to make it happen. So it can. It's not, it is what it is. Well, I have to just settle with this shitty yard. I don't, and I won't. I'm going to figure it out, right? It, it's, it's possible. It's possible if you are seeking it to be. Lisa says racism is passive aggressive in the South. Yeah, I don't know if it's passive. It don't feel passive to me. I'm gonna just tell you that. It might depend on whose lens you're talking about. Laura says, yeah, I do that when I say it is what it is. It's because I feel I don't have the power to fight it, but I see how that's wrong. And I don't even want to say that it's wrong, right? Again, learning systems will remove that right or wrong, right? Or that's the only, God, I can never say this. Never. Only one right way is one of those pillars of supremacy culture. It's not wrong. It is what it is. No, it is the patterning. It is the way that we have all been handed a system and handed language, and we utilize it um, as it was given to us. And we're not taught to question. We're not taught to say, why? Why doesn't this work? Or what else? What are the possibilities? Right. So this work is about opening up to possibilities. Like not every single thing will work, right? Not everything that I say is going to work. But what I'm hoping is that it opens you up to questioning, right? To becoming curious, to remain teachable, to seek alternatives, an alternative way of living, of being, the possibilities that it could open up when we think in a different sort of way, right? Two, cliches like these protect the system, not the person. Thought terminating cliches maintain emotional distance while pretending to offer wisdom. We've all been there and felt that, right? They often appear in workplaces, school, healthcare, family systems to keep the peace, but really they preserve power. This is such a big one, right? When I'm talking about those 15 pillars of supremacy culture, and I discuss the fear of open conflict, right? Don't bother your father right now. Feeds into paternalism, fear of open conflict. And it's this idea that we're keeping the peace. Whose peace? Whose peace? Whose? Who feels peaceful in amidst this tension, amidst this obvious conflict that exists, right? Ignoring it does not make the conflict exist. And who is feeling peaceful in the midst of that, right? It is a false peace. It is a false peace that is absolutely tearing up the people inside, right? So common cliches to watch for in regard to this. Don't air dirty laundry. Many of us have heard that, right? Like what happens in this house stays in this house. What? Like that sounds, listen to it and think about how right that sounds to protect abusive systems and abusers and not the person being harmed. All crime, all violence is about proximity. You are most likely going to be murdered by your partner. You are most likely going to be robbed by someone in your neighborhood. Like this is crime is about proximity and opportunity. Nothing more, nothing less. So even leaning in with what happens in this house stays in this house. Now, don't get me wrong. I do understand certain aspects of that idea but can we expound upon that, right? Like there's certain ways like you have to also protect yourself from a system, right? You guys know I am a freewheeling feral parent. With feral children. So I am mindful about, like, hey, you can't be cursing and doing this stuff out there because somebody's going to report me. Like, and defects is coming and they're going to say I'm a negligent parent because you live this way. So you need to just be doing that in the house, right? Like let's be mindful that we're not doing this elsewhere. But you see how there's a full breadth of that conversation. It's not what happens in this house stays in this house. And that's the end of it. It's like, hey, this is why we are mindful of what we do and where we do it, right? It gives a deeper, broader explanation. And it's also discussing the harm that systems cause very specifically to Black parents and Black children. We're already being pathologized. I don't have, if you outside acting a fool, you got your little Nerf gun and you're like, yeah, fuck this. Boy, do that in your house because we're not even safe in our backyards. We've seen that already. So there are exceptions to it, right? Nothing is a monolith, nothing is plain, but we are talking about these thought-terminating cliches in the way that they could cause harm. And there's still space for nuance, right? So you can't change the past. I hate that one. I hate that one. No, you cannot change the past, but we could absolutely confront it. We can absolutely deal with the rupture and we can do the things for the repair, right? No, I cannot change the past. You are 100% correct. But it shuts it down, right? It says what you are experiencing does not matter because it's already happened. Get over it. Sound familiar? Not awesome feeling, right? Because I'm telling you that I am still experiencing the harm from that past action. And because it has not been resolved, because there is no willingness for the repair and the restoration between us, it is still actively harming me today. You could take that however you want to. That could be interpersonal, that could be systemic, right? People say get over slavery. And I'm like, we can't because there has been no repair made to get past that space, right? There's no systemic shift and change, right? That's just a systemic one, right? Personally, if you're oh, well, that happened like 10 years ago. I don't give a shit. It still feels like 10 minutes ago to me. Are you willing to do the work? This came up for me. Maybe you're in therapy and, you remembered something that activated you and caused a certain pattern in your life. And you're like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. This is what happened. And this was the origin of it. Oh, well, that we can't change the past. I'm aware. like we know that, right? We know we can't change the past, but what can we do to ensure a healthier, better future if you would like to be in a relationship with me, right? This is where those boundaries come in. This is where you have the absolute right to cut off people that are not willing to do the healing work with you. No, you're right. We can't change the past. And if you're not willing to work on the future, we have no business here between you and I. Let me scroll. Lisa says, both my kids are and were allowed to swear at home. Yeah, as long as we're not cursing at each other, I'm cool with it. I mean, like, look at me. Not at others. Oh, yeah. See, so at the homes because other parents are judgmental fucks. I'm like, well, I'm super lucky. My kids, friends, parents know, I mean, that I'm feral and so are the kids. I am mindful, though, that when they're over, right, we talk about it because it's based on consent. Oh, well, they don't like, the cursing around their friends. So be mindful because this is a consent issue then, right? They don't feel comfortable. They're in your home and you should make people feel comfortable. And you don't want to lose your friends. And you can absolutely lose your friends if you are not being mindful to what makes them comfortable or uncomfortable. Um, our one of my best friend's kids, she comes over and she herself is empowered with saying, I'm not comfortable. I don't like it when you curse. She tells Shady Baby. And then I tell Shady, be mindful of that, right? Like I know there's people that I'm around that don't like it. And it's like, okay, it's work for me to not do so, but I am mindful of it. And that's a part of being in relationship with people, right? It's not like, well, fuck it. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Oh, well, that's fine. They have the right to say, I don't want you around me, right? Because again, consent in all things. So let's go through some others. Boys will be boys. Hate that one. Hate that one. What exactly does that mean? What system is that protecting? Yeah, that's rape culture, that's paternalism, that's patriarchy. That is so much oppression all in there. Boys will be boys. What exactly does that mean? Because I know plenty of boys that are quote unquote good boys, like great men, fathers, husbands, community leaders. Why is that not the model for boys will be boys? And boys will be boys only ever means terror. Think about that, right? Good vibes only. Yeah. It is such spiritual bypassing because so am I not allowed to have the full range of my human emotions? Good vibes only? Okay, well, I probably should not be around you because I'm a human and I am allowed to not have good vibes, right? I'm allowed to have a really crappy day. I am allowed to say, no, I can't show up. I want to rest. I don't want to have good vibes. No, I actually want to be angry today. I want to be sad. I want to be melancholy. There's so many things that I want to feel, and it's not good vibes. So that time heals all wounds. That is a lie from the pits of hell. Time does not heal all wounds. Active work for repair, restoration heals wounds. Okay. Time does not heal wounds. If you are not willing to sit with it and do the work, do the healing work, time, No. Not only does time not heal wounds, it gets passed on generationally, right? We know this spiritually, we know this scientifically, that trauma rewrites the DNA. Gosh, who said that last one? It's like the last allele. Whoever said it, you were the bomb. I think it was Sally. I'm not sure. I'm terrible about remembering things. But we know that. So time does not, in fact, heal all wounds. Time will carry those wounds throughout generations if they are not healed. That's why we're doing the healing work. At least it wasn't worse. I have to say that this is I don't like any of them, obviously, but this one is so dismissive and so harmful, right? This falls in line with the it could always be worse. And my answer to that has always been it can always be better. Why? Like why? We know it could be worse. We know it could be worse. Why are we not leaning towards it could be better? And what can we do to make it better? It can always be worse. It could also always be better. We have to start reimagining what things look like, right? Another one. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. What? What? I beg to differ. Okay. Even his son, if you want to go by the story, was like, why hast thou forsaken me? Jesus himself was like, what the hell is wrong with you, God? Father. Like what did I do? Like, what did I do that I'm over here beaten, strung up on a cross, getting stabbed? What the hell did I do? Why hast thou forsaken me? So Christ himself did not like that idea. Christ himself felt like he couldn't handle it. Otherwise, he would have been like chilling, like, right, taking them beatings like a champ. Because God doesn't give you more than you can handle. Do you see how insane that sounds? People are biting off more than they could chew for basic survival. Okay. God, whatever God you want to believe in, but damn sure the colonial Christian God gives us all more than we can handle because he's a construct that was given to strip people of their original indigenous practices. That in and of itself is too much to handle, right? That is why we're here 2000 some odd years later. So, no, that is a terrible one. That is a terrible one. Jenny says, I have always disliked that one. Yeah, because it's so violent, right? It's so violent because you want to paint this picture of an all loving, all knowing, all seeing God who is enjoying my suffering. Like the dissonance that systems of whiteness and colonial Christianity cause is mind blowing. Oh, Taylor, I see your mind was blown by something. I like that. Is mind blowing to me because I'm like, is anyone reading? Is comprehension in the room with us? Because I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand how we could have this all loving parent figure, right? And as a parent, I just could not imagine me trying to give my children more than they can handle. Like I want to take the burden on. Like I had to find a balance of not taking on a burden, so that they could learn. What did Yolanda call it? Oh, proactive struggle, progress something, but it was brilliant, right? Like the idea of allowing your child to struggle to tie their shoes, right? But that's a necessary thing. But whilst they're doing that, I'm not going to be like, here, hold this grocery bag. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to give them more than they can handle. I do believe that there is a certain level of learning and expectation. That is a beautiful thing, right? A little bit of struggle helps get some wrinkles going on in their brain, not in that weird bootstrapping way, but just in a way that you feel like you've accomplished. Like, I did struggle tying my shoe, but damn it, I got it done. That was beautiful. And my trusted adults and people were encouraging me and they were telling me how to do bunny ears and they sat with me and practiced it over and over and over again. And now I'm doing it on my own. That's beautiful. Nobody said that they had to get it done the first time with whilst balancing five other things. That's a weird one to go off of. Tiff says, granted, indigenous practices can be just as harsh at times. Spiritual abuse, period, is harmful. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. I can't speak from that perspective. I was raised underneath colonial Christianity. So I'm not the person to speak. I know that tons of spiritual systems have abuse practices in it. And that's because you are dealing with a bunch of colonized people who are pushing spirituality, and it often is utilized to bypass the systems that are harmful. So I can see that. I can see that. I just can't necessarily speak to that, right? Because like it's not my practice. I don't really know what the hell's going on in there. But I can say in that general is that when you have a bunch of colonized people, we're all going to cause harm. Like we have to just accept that as the truth is that we are going to cause harm as we are doing this work. We are going to think that we're doing it right and we're going to get it wrong. And again, that's for me why it's like remain teachable. I could be wrong in this. Like that's okay. I think I'm right. Somebody may come along like you just did and offer me a correction or some depth, and I accept that. I believe that that's true. That I'm not going to deny that. I just can't necessarily speak to it. But I align and I agree. Okay, so as examples, a queer teen is bullied at school, and kids are and are told kids can be cruel. Why are kids cruel? Are we not concerned about tiny humans being cruel? And even if they are like fair and they don't recognize that they're being cruel, right? They just say things or they repeat things, etc. Can we not offer them a redirect? That's a system that they are upholding, right? That is a cis het normative system that that child is upholding when they are being mean to a queer child. Lisa says, the whole loving God who you must pray to just, right? Or it won't grant you the answer to your prayers. Yeah, it's like a weird genie situation. Like there's so many things that colonial Christianity has taken and just co-opted and made a story. And it's a very violent thing that that they did to co-opt spirituality in such a way and distort it, right? And then hand that back to people as the only way for salvation, right? Like that goes back to it shows us how supremacy culture is a disconnect, right? From ourselves, from land, and from community. It continuously not only severs, but it always places an intercessory, right? An intermediary, some type of go between in order to get back to connection, right? So if in order for me to connect to God, I need to go to a priest. Sorry, I grew up Irish Catholic. I need to go to a priest and get absolution and say some Hail Marys, or I need to do something in order to get back to there. And it forgets to remind us that we are divine. We are a part of the divine order. We are nature, right? I am divine, you are divine. That is how that goes. Even in its own language, it tells you that, right? Like if you're made in the image of God, like I used to be like, if I'm made in the image of God, doesn't that make me God? Like in some sort of way, doesn't that make me a part of this God that you speak of? Doesn't that make me somewhat divine? Like 1/10 something? Like what? Make this make sense to me. Break it down to me so I can understand, right? Stand by. Oops. Jessica says 1,000% had to have a loving talk with my 9-year-old niece after we noticed she was excluding a trans girl on her dance team despite her friends having trans adult friends. Yes, it is so ingrained in this system. Like, we live the most queer life. Like, we have such a queer life, right? Like, I'm talking about trans family members, poly, like that. There's like no, like, and my kids still say homophobic shit. And I'm like, let's let's get curious with that. Like, where did you hear that? What do you think that that means, right? Like, and often I find that they have no idea what they're saying means or how it could be harmful, right? So even just saying kids can be cruel is so bypassing of their own actual truth. Are they being intentionally cruel, right? To me, cruelty requires intent in some sort of way, specifically from children, not from adults, because you fuckers know. But for children, it requires an intent, and they're most likely repeating what they've heard on a YouTube, in passing, on a movie, from other adults. They don't have the intent to be cruel. They're just quite literally saying things. And again, if you get curious with them, well, I heard this, or I thought that, or it was in a song, or wah, 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 whatever it may be. And then that's where you get to do the course correction. Da-da-da. Jessica says it's love for her and whomever she may harm. Dinah says colonial Christianity stripped us of so much, so much. so much. It's such a violent, um, Christianization. It was so violent. Like, forget about like just the crusades and the violence of the physical harm, right? The rape, the like Vindi Vidi Vici. We came, we saw, we conquered, and all that that entails. The the emotional, the mental, the spiritual violence of colonial Christianity is such harm to undo and to heal from in a very big way. I am super duper over time, and I thank you guys for your patience this Monday. So I said a woman reports sexual harassment at work, and HR responds, "That's just how he is. He doesn't mean anything by it." No, what do you mean he doesn't mean it? No, he meant something by it. He 100% meant something by it. What he meant was he was trying to get in my pants, and we need to have a conversation about that because that's a hell no, right? Neurodiverse employee is excluded from meetings and told, "You're too sensitive. Toughen up." I don't want to be tough. Like, why does someone have to be like, are we not questioning why someone has to shut off and dissociate from their human emotions in order to survive the system? That sounds a little too violent to me then. That sounds like there needs to be some change. And it's not that it won't come up, right? I've shared this before. My son, I know that this is a test. Like, my son is so amazingly sensitive. And when it comes up, I am me, who I am, just so you know, while you're working through this, it's always going to be there, right? Like that lizard brain thinking, that systems thinking is always going to be there. I immediately like, why the fuck is crying? Why? Right? Because there's no crying in baseball. Like I wasn't even allowed to do that. Back to the Gen X parenting trauma. So I have to still meet it with, oh, you're allowed to feel these feelings, right? You need to feel these feelings. I'm here and I just get supportive, which is healing for me too. Cause it's like, oh, I cry more now thanks to perimenopause and the ability to allow my children to have the full breadth of their emotions than I've cried in my entire fucking life. Let me just tell you that. Tiff said this conversation is so good. Always quality, thought provoking. You have 3 hours. Thank you. I appreciate that. Laura says that Zeke. Yeah, like it, and it's not easy, right? Like it's not easy when we've been patterned to believe that, but then we wind up raising the men that we hate. Let's just be honest about that, right? If I shut my son down now, if I tell him boys don't cry, buck up, whatever the hell kind of thing, one of those thought terminating cliches. I can't be mad that he's going to be an unemotionally available man. He wasn't allowed to feel his emotions his entire life. You want all of a sudden that he gets to be partnered with somebody or has children and here he is emotionally available? Look at me. I'm going to have these feelings. No. We always allow men to fucking fight. Those are the two emotions men get specifically. We could racialize that too. So all of these things need to be questioned. Mhm. So each one of these phrases shrinks the truth to fit the comfort of the dominant narrative. Remember supremacy culture and dominance, right? It is a dominant culture. The reframe here is these phrases don't resolve harm, they reinforce its conditions. Real safety comes from naming the rupture and building repair. I ask you to reflect what phrases have been used in your life to dismiss valid pain under the illusion of maturity, positivity, or faith. Okay. I love that you guys are talking back to me. Talk to me. Da-da-da. The scrolling capabilities are not exactly what I need it to be. Laura says, my thing is through listening to you and others, I've learned over the years that it's okay to cry, et cetera, et cetera. And the same for boys. And I've told them that, and I'm there for him when he's upset and everything, but he still has crazy anger bouts of bouts of anger. I mean, and it makes me wonder why would he be abusive to a partner when would he be abusive to a partner when he gets older? I've been doing the right thing for several years now in that regard. I mean, I've said this and I will continuously say Amy gave me the best advice 1,000 years ago. It feels like parent the child in front of you. Nobody knows what their kid is going to be, right? Nobody knows. The best thing that you can do is offer the best conditions, the ability to seek support, right? From others, from outside of yourself, right? You're not the only authority, getting curious. And a lot of things like I said, we made mistakes. We were not able to do um all of the best things. And a lot of times you think that we're raising people for survival. Like we have to be honest. For generations and generations now, we have raised people simply to survive these violent systems. Undoing that is not going to happen in a couple of years in one parenting generation, right? We could only make it a little bit better each generation. Like these kids already know that Gen Alpha, they're not here for none of that shit, none of these constructs. They don't care about gender, sexuality, religion. That world already exists. Our job is to come alongside it and dismantle the systems so that it can exist safely. That is my goal. Like these kids already know. Like they are built with this intrinsic wisdom. They came into this place and space knowing so much more than what we do. And if we pay attention to them, we could just like help them create the world that they already know. Melissa says, I love that about these kids. Me too. Me too. They are ready. They come in so free and feral. And I'm like, yes. I deeply support the wild and free in you. Right. One of my favorite books as a kid was Where the Wild Things Are. And I'm like, this is we're living in the generation of where the wild things are. And I love that for them. Okay, last one. Okay, last one, I promise. Talking point 3. Liberation requires languaging what we long for. As an example, we're going to get into all of these kinds of things. Oh, Sam, you like that book too? It's brilliant. You know what? Let me go buy that. Okay. Cliches flatten imagination. They convince us to accept less, expect less, and dream less. But thriving communities are built on language that expands possibilities, not limit it. Examples of reclaimed language. Instead of this is just how the world works, we say this is not the only way a world can work. You can acknowledge what's happening right now. Yes, I understand that this is how this world is working right now. Right. We can say that, right? Like, so you don't feel pie in the sky or, oh, you're just dreaming. Yeah. Why have we stopped dreaming? Okay. Like, let's ask that question. Like, are we so downtrodden, so beaten, so despondent that we have stopped dreaming? I want us to start again then, right? So you can acknowledge that this is the way this world is working right now, but there's a different way. That there's a whole entire other way. Taylor says, love the human you are. And I love who you are as a human. Thank you, Taylor. So, oh, see, I want to cry. Perimenopause in my mind. In that lizard brain, it's like, there's no crying in baseball. Stop being a pussy, Des. But thank you. I really deeply appreciate that. Um, Ariana says, I love teaching high school juniors and seniors for that very reason. People think they're lazy and uneducated, but they see right through our bullshit education system. They do, and will call you on it, right? Like what we pathologize as behavioral issues in children is really this is bullshit. This is bullshit. I don't want to sit in this class. I don't want to hear it. This is a lie. Like they can tell, they know. And honestly, you're wasting their time. There are a thousand better things that they could be doing. There is a PS5 game waiting for somebody, right? There is outside, there is nature, there is a whole lot of things that they could be doing instead of being bullshitted by you for 8 hours. And they know that, right? Like the younger you are, the less likely you are to being duped by the bullshit, right? That is an abusive system over and over that beats it out of you with these thought terminating cliches, right? When we challenged it, and as toddlers, we challenged the dumb shit. We stood up for it, like Morgan, Shady Baby, is 6 and has no fear and will stand up for a friend in a New York minute. I don't shut her down, right? I allow her that space to do that. But I can see how we have been consistently shut down by systems, by parents. But parenting is also a system in this system. All of these things, so that by the time we become these adults, we are just replicating the system and we're just so beaten down. We're just so worn out. And our only goal is to survive capitalism. And that's all you got left. That's just all you have left because it's constantly pardon me, my fuzzy little mic fell. It's constantly beating you down and abusing you. So yeah, no, these kids know. And I love that. I really do. Let me scroll. Hi, Anissa. Toot, 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 toot. Jenny said yes. Agreeing. Dinah said at the end of that movie, The Family That Prays. That was a good movie. There's a line that says something like, "Parents, you are not your children's only influence." Lisa says, "You sharing your humanity brings out the humanity in us." Oh, I love that. Michelle says, "Nobody will shut you down faster than someone full of anger about having been shut down themselves." Absolutely. Right, girl. Yeah, right. Because like we perpetuate systems of abuse. It's just that much easier, right? If you didn't feel heard, it's easier to not feel anybody else. And then you lie and tell yourself, "I'm fine. They'll survive." I survived in spite of you. Like I did not survive because of you. Many of us survived in spite of the beatings, the abuse, the lies, all of that. That you did not survive because of it. You survived in spite of it. And I need that reframe to happen, that paradigm shift. If you are here and you did it in spite of all of the barriers to be here, the system is not created for our thriving, barely for our survival, definitely not for our thriving. So instead of this is just how the world works, we say this is not the only way a world can work. Instead of I'm fine, we say I'm unraveling. And that's holy, right? I'm not fine. Like when people ask me, like, "Oh, how are you doing?" You want a real answer, or you just want me to, I could just tell you I'm okay. Because sometimes I'm not, and that's okay. Instead of suck it up, we say, let's slow down and honor what's coming up. Right. And I know that this takes work, but it takes work to have something different. Like I did. I don't know what else to tell you. Oh, but that's so much work. It takes so much time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It does. Yes, it does. Yes, it's going to take some work. There's no way to avoid doing the work, right? Now, this is why joy in the midst of the work, rest in the midst of the work, recognizing your capacity in the work, boundaries in the work, because it's going to take work outside of surviving these systems, specifically capitalism. So it is exhausting. And it is why it is so necessary to incorporate all of those other things in order to stay in the work. Zina says, "I'm in a family system. I feel like the system wants to get me snatched back in." You care to expound on that? Like, what exactly does that mean? Because yeah, family systems have their own issues as well, right? So, uh, as an example here, I said, like, let's say if a participant shares, I finally said no. I get so many of these people, right? Like they love like the boundaries situation. They're like, "Oh my God, I finally said no." And in a Christian setting, it's like, "Oh, well, you don't want to miss your blessing." I'm the blessing, right? The blessing is in my no. I want you guys, my friend Monique said something, God, Jesus, we've known each other now. How old is Aaron? Aaron is about to be 13, guys. So we've known each other about 12 years now. And she said something on my porch 12 years ago that I use to this day, and I want to offer it to you. Respect my no like you respect my yes. Mm, yes. Respect my no like you respect my yes. And I do that with my kids, right? Like if I turn around and I say no, these fuckers are bargaining every which way. "Can I have some Oreos?" "No, not right now." After you eat some dinner or something, nourish your body. That's a treat. It's not even a snack. If you're hungry, feed yourself some food. You want a snack, there is something that is going to nourish your body. You could have treats after nourishment, right? Um, and they will bargain. And I don't bargain with terrorists. I'm like, no. And so I asked them, right? And I don't do the because I said so. This is what I mean about getting curious. I asked them, I say, "Hey, let me ask you a question. If you said, 'Mom, can I get 2 Oreos?' And I said, 'Yes,' would you bargain? Would you turn around and be like, 'Mom, are you sure I can get two? You sure you don't want me to eat first?'" I'm like, you wouldn't do any of that. You wouldn't do no talking back. You wouldn't do no arguing. You wouldn't do no negotiating. You wouldn't be bargaining for your life. Respect my no, like you respect my yes. Okay? Same way I said yes, and you would have just got on with your life and done the thing you wanted to do. Respect my no. And I treat everybody the same way. Oh, Lord, I'm trying to scroll and almost lost the whole thing. Dun, 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 dun. Tiffany said, "Yes, yes, yes." Yeah, wasn't that great, girl? I never let it go. Never. Tiffany said, "You said that before, and I love it so much. It is delicious. I need to put it on a t-shirt and a mug." Dinah says, "The family system is Pentecostal, and I'm in something different." Gotcha. Understood. Yeah, no, that's a really big one. I hope you know what, maybe I'll write a note about that. Respect my no like you respect my yes. And honestly, that was just something so powerful. And it was such a paradigm shift for me that I kept it because it's a necessary thing. So I said that's what liberation language sounds like. It reframes survival as not enough and brings thriving into reach, right? When so like to the example of that is like you don't want to miss your blessing. The answer or the response to that is my body is a blessing. My boundaries are sacred and I don't need to earn rest, right? Reminding ourselves of that, right? Like I don't need to toil. I don't need to I you just don't need to earn these things, right? That is a capitalistic mindset. I'm worthy of that because I exist. Do you see me? I'm breathing. So I need rest. I need joy. I need laughter. I need food. I need nourishment. I need good food. I need good. I need goodness. And so do you, right? That's your divine right of existence, right? Like, you see, look at these beautiful trees out here. They're not like, oh, what can I do to earn? Nope. They're just out here growing, just doing their own thing as they should, right? As it is intended in the true course of nature. And we are an extension of that true course of nature. You don't have to earn these things. So the reflection prompt here is what new phrases, truths, or questions am I ready to say in place of the ones that have silenced me? And with that, folks, I am going to honestly let you go. It is 10:20 and you sat with me and I am so thankful for you. I did not realize I would go this far over. I know I'm a little bit of a chatty Cathy. So let's recap. Do. Why it is what it is isn't liberation. 3 points. One, it is what it is a closure statement, not a clarifying. Two, cliches like these protect the system, not the person. We are here for humanity and dismantling systems, right? Okay. So, three, liberation requires languaging that for what we long for. Just that simple. Just that simple, folks. So, thank you. I'll be here all day. No, thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for this time. Did you think it was so good, Susan? Thank you. I appreciate it. This is kind of like my jam. I really enjoy this, right? Because again, language is almost like the first frontier, right, of changing our minds, of changing our perspectives, of paradigm shifts, right? If we can change the way we think and the way we speak, all of these things start shifting, right? All of these agreements shift and change because we are working on it. And we have to just accept that we speak the language of oppression. So often things are going to sound the same, and so there needs to be clarification. There has to be intentionality behind what we say because we speak an oppressor's language. So there we go. Ta-da-da. Michelle says, thank you, Desiree. Laura says, thank you. Uh, sorry. Lisa says, this was awesome. I'll be sharing with my partner. I look forward to hearing what your partner has to say. Okay. Jenny says, thank you. You are so welcome. Thank you guys all for being here, supporting this work in all of the ways and sharing and subscribing. It's been beautiful just to see how people really are interacting and desiring this style of education and the way I could just show up as myself. I really deeply appreciate you guys. Carolyn is Chatty Cathy thought terminating. Not for me, girl, but could be. You're an educator and we're here for it. I deeply appreciate that. Dinah says, thank you. I'm just trying to be mindful of people's time boundaries, right? Like you take the time out and it's like, okay, girl, you said 9:30 to 10. It's 10:30. Do better. All right. I love you guys. I will see you on Wednesday. We shall return. Bye.